I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast. More specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. We have a typical intro. Like, subscribe, share that shit, etc. We got a lot to get to. K-Dot, it has been a whirlwind of a week for Commanders free agency. We've got a lot of new players. We've got some people returning. The Sam Howell trade, tons to get to. We're just going to jump into it. Free agency as a whole, then we'll do our comment mailbag or after the pod, but let's get to it. K-Dot.
Yeah.
K-Dot, this is what having a GM is like. Okay.
Dude.
It's great. It's great. Start. Shout out Adam Peters. Why don't we start there? Go ahead.
No doubt. So like it's what I say, healthy offseason fun. So like we've had in the last 20 years, we've definitely had offseason fun, right? So like the off seasons here in Washington, even in a shitty dance, that era, Serrano, whoever the fuck, they've typically been at least interesting or drama filled for the longest time until fairly recently when the Ron Rivera era. But we all knew when you look at the contracts, you look at who it is they're picking up, it's like you might have faith. Look, there was nobody when Donovan McNabb's, ooh, we got Donovan McNabb. This is going to be fun. And then you really think about it, it's like, oh, yeah, this probably isn't going to work out. Like this,
right?
This feels good. This feels like one of those I feel like a fan base. I feel like a fan of a team that is competent. They're making fucking major moves.
And Al Galdi made a really good point on Twitter where he said, by the way, I don't know if anybody noticed, this week has been all about football. There's not been any off-field stuff. And I was like, you know what? You're right. It has been a while since we've had some off-field bullshit. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the signings that we made. Actually, I'll run through all of them real quick, including returns and then the trade. And I'll let you take it from there about which one you like the most, K-Dot. So beginning with new players. Dorance Armstrong comes from the Dallas Cowboys, 3 years, $33 million. Frankie Luvu, linebacker, heat-seeking missile, if you look at his highlights. From the Carolina Panthers, 3 years, $31 million. Tyler Biadasz, center for the Dallas Cowboys, now center for your Washington Commanders, 3 years, $29.25 million. Then we got Nick Allegretti, guard, coming from the Kansas City Chiefs, said he wanted to be a starter. He's got an opportunity here. 3 years, $16 million. Bobby Wagner, 1 year, $8.5 million. My God, you talk about a leader at the heart of the defense. Austin Ekeler, 2 years, 8.4. Marcus Mariota, 1 year, $6 million. Zach Ertz, the very first one way back, 1 year, $5 million at tight end. Tyler Ott, 3 years, $4.4 million. We have a long snapper. How cool is that? Then we have Jeremy Chinn, 1 year, $4.1 million. Safety that can play linebacker, by the way. Really good in his first 2 years. Some injuries, but that's why you're getting a 1 year deal. You want to see how he handles that. Clelin Ferrell, 1 year, $3.75 million off the edge. Brandon McManus, 1 year, $3.6 million. Dante Fowler and Anthony Pittman. Anthony Pittman, more special teams guy, talks about energy and effort. Dante Fowler, I mean, he's certified in the league. He does bounce around quite a bit, but he knows what he's good at, and he's good at it. So he's going to be coming off the edge. I don't have the details of those contracts. I've been looking at spot rack all over the place. Can't find those. The returns, Jeremy Reeves, 2 years, $6 million. Jamison Crowder back on a 1 year deal. F.A. Obata has also returned. Also don't know the contract there. And then the trade that happened yesterday. Sam Howell was the starter here last season. And now he may start for Seattle if you are a Howler still. But here's what happened. We gave Sam Howell 4th round pick, 102 overall, 6th round pick, 179 overall to Seattle. In return, we moved up 24 spots. So we go into the 3rd round with the 78th overall pick and the 5th round, 152nd overall pick. So when you look at all that, lots of new players, a few returns, a lot of people that did not return, K-Dot, and moving up in the draft. The floor is yours. There's a lot to get to. I'll let you just go ahead and take it wherever you want to.
Right. Yeah, no shit. God damn, dude. So I'll start at the end and then go back. So like we'll start at some of the nitty-gritty stuff and then the stuff I'm most excited about. Like the Sam Howell. Godspeed, good luck, sir. right? So like I know that there was a debate at least early on as far as what the value was, the trade value. Everybody's looking at like the Jimmy Johnson chart, comparing the other charts to see exactly. Bottom line is you had a guy in Sam Howell who it looks like we're going to probably pick a quarterback at number 2. They bring in Marcus Mariota. It's not Adam Peters' responsibility to develop Sam Howell anymore to see what's up with him. He didn't draft him. He's a 5th round guy. It was not his rookie season last year. He's 2 years in. It was just time to move on. I think everybody wishing him the absolute best of luck. If something happens with Geno Smith, maybe Sam can go out and shine. But we moved back. We moved up 6 picks in the top 100. That's a fucking king's ransom, especially when you look at everything we've done in free agency to fill holes. Where now you look in this draft where you're like, all right, there might be 1 or 2 things you want to fill, but the idea of being able to do best player available compared to we have a need frees up a lot of shit when it comes to the draft, which is great to me.
Mm-hmm.
So good job as far as getting more ammunition from the Sam Howell thing that just wasn't going to work out. As far as the guys that have left, I know that I wanted Fuller still around. I know you wanted Cam Curl still here. I love that they're going with Fuller, I think, signed with Miami, and you have Curls there with LA. Wish them the absolute best of luck.
Yep.
But it's just the way that it kind of shook out here and how deep safety was as far as in free agency. They found a dude that looks like it's going to gel more what it is they're trying to do with Jeremy Chinn.
Yeah.
So it's just what it is. Wishing everybody the best of luck. Curtis Samuel in Buffalo. Great. But once again, there was not a single soul, really, in my opinion, on this team that was above reproach for either getting cut, traded, or just leaving. We saw what the record was last year. Yes, they got undercoached, but at the end of the day, is what it is. Now the exciting stuff. The guys that are here, right? The guys that are coming in.
Yes.
I don't even know how to rank the ones that I'm most excited about. I think the one that gets me, so like at large, what you see with this, and when I was talking about earlier, as far as like off seasons in the past that we've been excited about, but you knew that they weren't going to be necessarily fruitful because of track record or whatever. With this, you can see just even in the contract structure, these guys know what the fuck they're doing. You're not in the Vinny Serrano, Dan Snyder era. That Bobby Wagner contract is 6 years, $160 million or something stupid, right?
He's going to be 34 when the season starts.
You see what I'm saying? So like, there's the idea of like, you get a Bobby Wagner, who's, if I'm looking at it, he's my favorite pickup. Wagner's 1 year older than when London Fletcher got here. And we saw what we were able to still get out of London Fletcher, right? Bobby Wagner was still a fucking all pro last year. His PFF ratings are still through the goddamn roof. Yeah, everybody's expecting to fall off, but after Tom Brady, I ain't throwing that on anybody.
Led the league in combined tackles, solo and assist.
It's nuts. But the biggest thing above all other things is you have a leader in that locker room. Has it been since London Fletcher that we've had a true leader on that defense? It might have been.
Probably.
It might be. So, like, Jonathan Allen, for all that he does as far as being a good leader in certain aspects of it, he's more of a quiet guy. He's not the dude that really riles anybody. And then you had dudes like Chase Young that were just rah, but they weren't backing it up with what it is they were doing on the field. You know, Bobby
Still
Wagner.
Unsigned, by the way.
Yep. And I'm so wishing he goes to find somewhere, even if...
No, of course, but like...
I wouldn't even be fine with him coming back here. I don't give a shit. But the idea of what Bobby Wagner brings to your team, and the fact is that, like, this is a dude that also has, and this is something you alluded to when we were going through our free agency list. Everybody that you had on your list were people that you were trying to tie connections.
There are a lot of connections on this list, by the way.
There's so many connections. And the Bobby Wagner thing, Dan Quinn, Ken Norton Jr. both worked with him. He loves those guys. And you can see even with the contract and stuff, Bobby Wagner probably could have commanded more somewhere else. But there is an idea that you see these dudes actually wanting to come here and play. Nick Allegretti's press conference was awesome in the sense of like, I don't want anything to be given to me. I want to fucking earn that shit. Like, I'm here to work. I mean, you can see with the dudes that are here, you can look at any of their highlights. You can look at the way that they talk or conduct themselves. We got dogs in the building, man. You can't look at a Frankie Luvu goddamn highlight reel and not see you got a dog here coming to you. And it'd be Jeremy Chinn. There was a dude that his rookie season was right there in the conversation with there was a huge argument with us with Cam Curl. That motherfucker is a dog. I can't wait to see what they can do for us. And then you got some of the dudes that are on the upswing. I know Dorance Armstrong was on my list. He should have been on everybody's list. That's a dude that has high upside. He was playing 42% of the snaps last season. Give him more. Like they're filling in, getting the right veteran old guys compared to the dudes that are right on the upswing, and it's perfect.
I want to pay attention to the contract structure, right? So Dorance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz, Frankie Luvu, right? The ones with the big money, the 3 years for 10 million plus per season. What, 26, 27 years old? So like they're entering their prime. That makes sense. Bobby Wagner, huge name. Zach Ertz, big name. Austin Ekeler, big name. 1 year deal, 1 year deal, 2 year deals because they're a bit older. So they are already figuring that out. You speak to these being good contracts. I decided to look at the years beyond this, right? Because there's still a lot of reports. Who's number one in cap space right now, K-Dot, this year? It's us. It's still us by $11 million. Okay, well, what about 2025?
Oh, sorry.
Well, we're number 3. Well, what about 2026? Number 4. What about 2027? Number 4. You are top 5 in cap space for the next 3 years after this as well, right? And that factors in literally bringing in a new team, right? Yep. And when you add in the draft picks, we have 9 total, and we'll get through the exact numbers there. That's 23 new players if the current signings that we have and those draft picks make the team, right? And you would expect there's only one 7th round pick, and then the next lowest is 5th round. You would expect them to make the team. That's 23 players, right? Of a 53-man roster. There's a lot to be excited about here. This is not last year's Commanders by any means. Please
100%. Yeah, no, that's the thing is like the idea of they are legitimately rebuilding the roster. Like you can't look at the amount of free agents they signed and not say, oh shit, okay, this is a rebuild. But it's not a rebuild in which you can look at and say they're resting on, hey, it'll take us 3 or 4 years to get anything. No, it's here's a rebuild in the sense of we still want and know that we're going to fucking compete. And we're trying to set ourselves up for the most success going forward. We know Adam Peters' track record in San Francisco as far as those late round draft picks, right? We know that having all this cap space is there where if these guys work out from a draft standpoint, if these dudes need to make it to that second contract, you've got so much flexibility with the fact that you're still putting together the pieces and not necessarily a sense of like rebuild, we can tank next season. You're still going to be competitive, and you still have the opportunity to sign guys and to build this team as the years go on. They're not, you can see that this is a carefully crafted and calculated plan that's in place. They're not just doing things willy-nilly.
Right. Not at all. And so I think it's important to draw a couple themes here. One is leadership. Let's start there, right? So Bobby Wagner, not just what he does on the field. By the way, he played 98% of snaps last season. Like, he's going to stay on the field. And he is a leader that can fire up the defense, that can make sure people are in the right place. It was something I'm going to miss Cam Curl for that reason, but we have brought in leaders that can help with that, right? So Bobby Wagner is one. Frankie Luvu is my favorite signing, by the way. 3 years, $31 million. Undrafted free agent, initially signed by the Jets to be a special teamer, then goes to Carolina. Where's the green dot? Plays 94% of snaps. The green dot, for those that don't know, means he's calling the defense, right? So, and another leader wears a C on his chest. Okay, so that is a younger guy that is already a leader. Austin Ekeler has been a leader for the LA Chargers. Zach Ertz, we know him from the NFC East days. Cliff and him have a connection. Like, it is really nice to be able to sign guys that our coaching staff trusts. I think that's the big thing. So sometimes we've had big splash signings in the past. There's not necessarily been a connection, so we know what we're getting. Here, you can have a little more confidence, actually a lot more confidence in knowing what you're getting because of all the connections. Again, all the Dallas guys, there are connections there, right? Marcus Mariota with Brian Johnson as a bridge QB is totally sufficient. And here's the fun part, right? When Marcus Mariota is speaking, former Heisman Trophy winner, former number 2 overall pick, he knows what it's like to have the pressure on you. Exactly. It is literally, if it's a Jaden Daniels, that is the exact same situation. If it's Drake May, it's still the number 2 overall pick. We moved Sam Howell, so that friction, if there were going to be any, is gone. So Marcus is a pretty great person to have in the locker room, just to be able to say, hey, I know more or less exactly the types of expectations that are on you right now. Right? And then, again, Zach Ertz with Cliff Kingsbury. So there are a lot of connections here where they know who they're getting. I don't think there's any doubt or any Albert Hainsworths over here where you're just like, oh, okay, they're just mailing it in now. They got paid, they're done.
No, you can't say that at all, right? Like there's the aspect of that's the thing is like the veterans that they bring in on the 1-year deals, the Ertz and your Wagners that have the familiarity with the system. I care more about just what that is they do as far as being mini coaches on the field than I do about actually any production that they're giving me. Right. So like the idea that they can translate or be there to help the new guy, help the young guys develop and learn is just as important as anything else to me. Because I feel like that we've talked about this here. The way that this roster has been constructed recently, the lack of veteran presence that have success or just know how to communicate properly, right? So like you see even with the defensive line when they got rid of Ryan Kerrigan and you read the reports about what it is that did to the defensive line as far as who's following who and why are they following this guy? And you get that question. Ain't nobody in that goddamn locker room can look at a Bobby Wagner and say, I won't follow. If you don't follow that dude, something's wrong with you. Like that's where we're getting to. And just some of the young dudes, just as far as catching them in that right period and not having to overpay for them, it's just the perfect combination of both. It's a wonderful combination of both. And it's still just looking at like, look, I knew that they were going to make some picks as far as in free agency. I did not know they were going to go this fucking hard in the paint. I didn't. Like this is my wildest dreams, right? So like the idea that we've done everything we've done and now I get to look at drafting guys to add to this mix is nuts. And you're still in a position where there are still a few free agents out there that with how good this list is, I'm cool with them taking a shot at somebody. If they said, fuck it, we're gonna throw our hat in the ring of the Justin Simmons thing, do it. I don't give a fuck. You guys have solidified everything so much. Take it. Do it. It's okay. We got flexibility. We got room for you to fuck around with it, even if it doesn't work out. If they want to bring in Tyron Smith, fucking do it. You've solidified everything so well that it gives you flexibility to even be risky if you want to be risky now.
Absolutely.
Like that's what they've done. That's huge.
They have enabled safe best player available picking. For example, we'll get to the draft in a moment. I just wanted to do one final bit on the new players, right? So it's not just their leadership, of course, in and of itself is good for rallying guys in general, but it's also the ties to the coaching staff, right? That validate what the coaches are saying. So like, for example, Eric Bieniemy last year came in here with basically Andrew Wiley and had his own ideas and stuff like that. Cliff's going to come in with Zach. Again, tight end, we know how complex that position is, just listening to tight ends talk about the position. And then on the offensive defensive side of the ball with the Dallas guys, that immediately validates Dan Quinn if he says something. That immediately validates Joe Witt if he says something, because they go, trust me, these guys know what they're doing, and this is exactly what they're looking for. That's what helps. So it's an extension of the coaching staff on the field, which makes the transition for the younger guys much quicker. And in the case of offense, right? Because you just hear just Zach Ertz. Well, it's also going to be the number 2 overall pick because Cliff is going to have a big say in that. That guy is definitely going to want to go to bat for him. And Marcus Mariota with Brian Johnson is going to be able to go to bat for what he wants. Like, this is how you do it. You raise the floor, you get some veteran stability, and then you take your swings. You hit your JP Finley did a great job with this. You hit your singles in free agency. That's what we've done. Right. And now with your draft picks, and this is what I've been saying with pick 2, swing for the fences. And if you miss, you can go again. That's the point. Yep. Raise your floor with free agency, supplement with free agency, as Adam Peters has said, and then swing, baby, with those draft picks. Best player available. That's
the thing is like 2 things. Number one, what you just said at the end, you can see once again with the list of guys that are here and the contracts of which they're coming here, guys want to come play here. Yes. And that's leveraging the connections. It's leveraging that, okay, they knew that there's a new day here in Ashburn or here in Washington and guys actually want to get here. Guys want to play for Dan Quinn. The idea that it was even possible for them to do something like this a year or 2 ago, they might have had this game plan 2 years ago. There was no chance they'd be able to do it because nobody wants to fucking come here. And to your point exactly, proof is in the pudding. There are 2 things that you could see this happen between last season and this season. The F.A. Obata story about when he got hurt and the 2 people that contacted him when he was in the hospital Ron Rivera and Dan Quinn. He only knew Dan Quinn for 2 or 3 weeks in a training camp in Atlanta. And the dude called him and talked to him. Yes. No one else called him. None of the position coaches, none of the coordinators, nobody. Then even if you look at it from an offensive standpoint, this team has no reason to keep anybody around if they don't fucking want them, right? But what did they do? Well, you see Tavita Pritchard is still sticking around and Eric Bieniemy's gone. That usually means that there was something happening in that communication line that makes you know they still think Tavita's a guy.
Right.
But clearly there was something happening between what the coaches were doing. You need clear communication all the way through. The most important thing in any business, company, team, whatever, is buy-in. Everyone needs to be bought into what's happening. And if you don't have that, you're going to lose it. And you can clearly see with the way people have talked about it recently in Washington, shit for the last decade here in Washington. There's no buy-in. People don't believe that it's going to do anything. They don't believe in what the coaching staff is doing. They can't even look to the guy next to them and really believe that they'll be there to help them. Like right now, you have pure communication and pure buy-in throughout the roster and the team. And that, to me, more than anything, is what I've been looking for here in Washington.
Right. And this is I think we're going to hit more than we miss in free agency for the first time in what feels like quite some time. We'll see what happens, right? There's a long way to go. Injuries are going to occur. We still got needs, right? Left tackle. We still need to figure out what's going on there. Corner with Kendall Fuller leaving. We need to figure out what's going on there. Tight end. We mentioned it when we signed Zach Ertz. Like, we don't anticipate him being the starter. As of right now, he is. Like, so we need to figure out what's going on over there. And then wide receiver. There are a few options, and of course, it's a heavy draft. And so on that note, why don't we go ahead and talk about the draft? Again, 9 total picks. We have 1 first-round pick, of course, pick 2 overall, as you all know. 2 second-rounders, pick 36 and pick 40. Pick 40 comes from Chicago in the Montez Sweat trade. Then we have 3 third-round picks. 67 overall, that was always ours. 78 overall, that comes from the Sam Howell trade. And pick 100 to round out 6 in the top 100. That was the Chase Young trade, the compensatory pick we got from San Francisco. 2 fifth-rounders, 139, that was ours. 152 from the Sam Howell trade, and then 7th-round pick, 222. 9 total. A lot of swings to be made, and it is supposedly a strong draft class if you listen to the experts. So it's nice to have picks in this one versus maybe years past. You look at the Wizards, maybe they should have tanked in different years, for example. The strength of the class matters, right? So that is important to note when we say we have 9 total picks and 6 in the top 100. It is that experts are saying this is a really good class, K-Dot. How do you feel about the current situation with the draft? Do you see us? Because here's the other aspect. Chicago only has 4 total picks, right? Do you see us moving up to pick 1 to take Caleb Williams and reunite him with Cliff?
So that's the thing. I don't know, because this is the thing. Look, the only thing I called was Dorance Armstrong.
Amik Robertson went to fucking Matt Regan's team. You're welcome, Matt.
So, like, the thing is that the one thing I know about this team is that when it's all said and done, they make moves that I love, but maybe I didn't see coming all the way through. Maybe I should have, but I don't know. But regardless, the thing that I'm most excited about is they have options. They're not stuck in anything, right? So, like, if they say, fuck it, we're really into Caleb Williams, he's our guy. We did what we need to do in free agency. We can get rid of some of these draft picks to go get the dude that we think is the difference maker for the franchise going forward. They could potentially do that. If they say, fuck it, we're going to stay here at number 2 and do a Drake May or Jaden Daniels, they can do that and then still have tons of other space to either move up or down the draft, to go get another guy that they really want, or just to stockpile as many fucking players as they possibly can, because once again, Adam Peters' track record, and you look at San Francisco as far as what they're able to do with draft picks, especially late ones, pretty damn good. So, like, if they say, oh, man, no, fuck this. We love the ability to be able to pick up these 9 new guys, and we're going to be set. We're going to be absolutely set. They just have options there. They can trade back from 2.
Yeah.
Pick up and then move back up. Like, it's few and far between that I can look at this team and say they're not backed into a corner where there's only one option, or they're not backed into a corner where you're just sort of, there's no real choice to be made. This is the road you're going.
I think that's the overall theme. I think you hit the nail on the head. Flexibility. Anything can happen now. 9 picks, 6 in the top 100. You can move up. You can move back and get him for future drafts if you view those as strong as well. You could do anything, and that makes you very dangerous, as a front office, to be able to know that you can go, hey, we're all in for Drake May, and maybe we don't like him, and we were able to trade out of the pick and get a ton of picks in return. Or you could go ahead and take Drake May. I'm just using Drake May in this example.
Yeah.
Like, you can go ahead and take Drake May and have that QB of the future and still have the flexibility to maybe move a second and a third, to move late into the first to pick up a left tackle. Like, there is a lot you can do here with the current draft picks. And we will, of course, cover the draft a whole lot more as we continue to go through free agency, but also look out for the second, third, fourth waves of free agency. We still are number 1 in cap space. Mention the needs: left tackle, corner, tight end, wide receiver. Some offensive line depth would also be nice. Those guys tend to go down pretty quickly. So, Nick Allegretti and Tyler Biadasz, we're excited about. What happens if they get hurt? Right? Like, there is Ricky Stromberg. How does the front office and coaching staff feel about Ricky Stromberg, last year's 3rd round pick? I don't know. Right. So there's a lot that still needs to be done, but a hell of a start.
It's a hell of a start. And I think when you're talking about also that flexibility part, is that to me is a through line of that mission statement, basically from top throughout, is that Adam Peters is doing exactly what a GM is supposed to do, which is give his coaches and the front office as many options as they can to fill out the roster the way that they want to. And that to me is, dude, I'm on cloud 9. Like,
we went from Vinny Serrato, Bruce Allen. Like, that's what we had. Look at it now. It's cool. It is just cool. If you were to just take a snapshot photo of this moment, it is cool.
Somebody was talking, I forget who, I got sent a tweet that they said that they were in the line. Somebody was in the line at the grocery store, and just out of nowhere, there was a conversation had about free agency and the Commanders.
Never happens
saying,
anymore.
and it doesn't happen. Like, right. The vibe that it used to be in that city, because I don't live there, Baltimore still has that vibe.
I'm seeing a lot of Commanders gear out over here, by the way.
Dude, it's getting there. Like, that's the thing, is like, you see that everybody keeps talking about, there's a groundswell. Washington and the area is Commanders fucking country. It's just, there are a lot of people tapped out and haven't had any reason to be excited. And even when it came to Dan Snyder being gone, there was still so much bullshit with the coaching staff and the team last year that you just tell they were like, all right, we're just going to stay hands off as far as Adam Peters, and let's let it play out. And thank God they let it play out the way they did, because now we're here. The only thing that I still probably would have liked to have a Montez Sweat, but whatever.
Of course. But, again, it's not going to be 100%. And Montez, to his credit, balled out in Chicago. There's a chance he didn't. And then all of a sudden you go, hey, we fleeced him. So, like, it depends on the player in question as well. And let's see what we get with that 2nd round pick. Any final thoughts before we move to the comment mailbag, where we got some excitement in there?
Now let's get to it.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get to that comment mailbag, where we have 12 comments. I'm going to begin with the most recent one, just because. Shout out, Tony.
Tony
literally starts it with, oh boy, can't wait for the show tomorrow. It is here, Tony.
Oh boy.
It is here. Appreciate you. I absolutely love what we did in free agency. I really question if our fans are actual fans or haters. I understand we're tainted because we've seen every scenario fail in the past, but some of our fans in their twisted minds would rather see us fail just so they can be right. The human ego and pride are 2 very, very powerful mechanisms on this planet. K-Dot, what do you make of the comment?
I think I've talked about what it is I feel about our fans for quite some time.
Yes, you have.
I will say, doing a podcast where we like pick games and make guesses about this, that, and the other. Yeah, you're constantly having that battle, right? Between, I want to be right. I want to know, like, I know what I'm talking about, but I'm also rooting for this team. I like the fact that so much is happening throughout this offseason, hopefully in the next year, where rooting for the team and making predictions on the team because we're just good kind of coincide with each other. So you're just solid.
Just solid. And now we're going to go all the way back to the very first comment, which also happens to be Tony.
Tony.
Shout out, Tony. Are y'all going to do a mock draft after free agency? Yes. Once we get closer to it, I saw the comment and was like, you know what? That is actually a great idea. If we get a little mock-up of a district divided mock draft, I think it would be pretty cool. So yes, Tony, look out for that. We'll definitely do that. appreciate the comment there. And we'll have one for K-Dot if you're up for it, and one for me, and we'll go ahead and see how they fare. We go over to Blood Clot. Shout out Blood Clot, another OG on the program. So this is going to be old news by the time you read this on the next podcast. A lot of things are old news at this point. But Seattle released Jamal Adams a couple of days ago. With Cameron Curl most likely leaving, he's now with the LA Rams, how do you feel about signing the 28-year-old Pro Bowler? When healthy, could be a great piece. Or do you think he's done in the league? Maybe Jeremy Chinn, who we signed, point to Blood Clot, or Xavier McKinney? Like I said, this comment could be irrelevant in a week, but shout out Blood Clot. Jeremy Chinn, now on the team. My feelings on Jamal Adams, a heat-seeking missile, but because I think we now have a large enough body of work, I don't trust him to be healthy. There are a number of times where he's come back and then almost immediately gotten hurt again. And it's very unfortunate because Jamal Adams, the talent is insane. But if you can't stay on the field, like we've run into that problem so many times in the past, I think very highly of Jamal Adams, the player, when he's on the field, but I don't trust him to be on the field.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say that like the only thing that I'm looking at when it comes to the safety position, and this is where it goes to, I need to do a little more digging as far as its safety on a Jamal Adams or on a Justin Simmons, because at least from what I know, Adams is probably a better player around the box compared to Simmons being more of a free safety kind of playing at spacer and coverage. Mm-hmm. Right now with the guys that you have, when it comes to getting a Jeremy Chinn and also Frankie Luvu is one of those tweener types. He's like a safety linebacker hybrid, sort of, if you look at his size and his speed or whatever. It looks like we got a lot of dudes that can come crashing down to the box. I'm looking for someone that I know can stay out there in the back and roam and get that range out. And get some interceptions and make some plays that way. So I don't know. That's what I'm looking at as far as who the big. I would love to sign another safety or somebody in the secondary, maybe a bigger name. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure exactly who that is without doing a little more digging.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I agree. I think the secondary still needs work, and so we'll go ahead and see what happens there. Then we go over to Redskin 17084. Shout out. Dull signing. Come on, guys. And this is in reference to the last video was about the Zach Ertz signing. Okay, and it feels like ages ago, right?
Yeah.
But those are the feelings on the Zach Ertz signing from Skin 17084. Then we go over to Matt Regan. Unreal signing. He'll provide a great tight end 3 option for Gardner Minshew. And that, of course, is a nice little comment there for K-Dot specifically. What do you make?
Zing! Go fuck yourself.
All right, cool. Moving on to Anthony Cardino, 9098, with 2 comments back to back. Shout out. We need a lot more pieces until we can say fuck it. This is in reference to after the pod, Jess Anto had mentioned signing Saquon and Tyron Smith and just really going for it this season. What would it take? So we need a lot more pieces until we can say fuck it like this, like a lot. But this is a rebuild. Let's be for real. It is. But we've done a great job, I think, so far in free agency of raising that floor, of having coaching extensions, if you will, on the field that can still play. So it's not like a Thomas Davis that came over here at 37 years old and we were like, cool, but like, great name, but does he still have it? Wagner's clearly still got it to an extent. Same with Ekeler, same with Ertz. So that's one comment. And the other, haven't even made the playoffs yet. Can't just go to a Super Bowl in year 1 of a rebuild. Again, in reference to that conversation. What do you make of those comments, K-Dot?
Once again, when I was saying the fuck it thing, right?
Yeah.
There is an element of, you can't buy a Super Bowl. But the idea to me would be, when I say fuck it, is more along the lines of what the LA Rams did in their run up to the Super Bowl. Not necessarily them winning the Super Bowl, but the year that they got to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff and they lost. And if I'm being completely honest, so you see the amount of free agents that we're having here and also the amount of cap space that you still have left. I'm not, that's a stupid thing to say. What I wanted to say was, if you said add Saquon Barkley and Kirk Cousins to this list, where do you think this team ends up?
I mean, you know where I feel it ends up. We go over to Vindo.
I actually have something about Kirk Cousins if you want to talk about it after
Got
the pod.
plenty of time after the pod. I always love talking about Kirk Cousins. Vindo, shout out Vindo. I don't know about the all-in thing. Not with the new head coach. Maybe next year. It may be next year. Okay, so
I wasn't being serious.
it's a lot of fun to just let that be and not acknowledge that you weren't serious about it. Oh, it's fun. Then we go over. Shout out Vindo. Appreciate that comment. Then we go over to Jess Anto with not one but two comments. Shout out Jess Anto. Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson could open up a lot as far as the draft. Mind you, this is 5 days ago. Trading back the second overall pick and receiving a king's ransom would really plug a lot of roster holes, especially with the new GM and his staff. Cousins would eat up a lot of the cap. By the way, did the math on every single signing, all less than the Kirk Cousins contract. But what QB doesn't? He has the same production as Dak Prescott, but he's about $18 million a year cheaper. Russell Wilson is interesting because of the Broncos eating his massive contract. He went to Pittsburgh for the vet min, 1 year, $1.2 million. Curious to see how much he's asking for. 1 year, $1.2 million. He's actually a good prospect for Washington. He and Howell have very similar skill sets. He would not affect our cap room, and you could still trade back and receive a ton of draft capital. He could be another mentally damaged quarterback, though, Wentz 2.0. As far as quarterbacks in the draft, I'm leaning towards Jaden Daniels. I think the sheer amount of starts in college prepares a rookie for NFL life more than anything else. There are stats to back that up as well. Mm-hmm. The more college experience you have, it's easier to project your NFL life. Experience is important. Besides that, he's got a good arm. He's athletic, and he's getting better every year. And most importantly, he does not turn the ball over. Yep. It's mind-blowing how all over the place everyone is on the QBs this year. It's true. Usually there's a pretty clear-cut pecking order. It just shows that nobody knows shit until their feet hit the fire. I mean, QB seems to be the hardest position to scout, so absolutely agree with that. Kid, what do you make of that comment from Jess Santo? There's one more coming after.
You could give that last statement about quarterbacks, you could have tattooed on my fucking forehead because that's all I talk about as far as risk aversion to that, right?
You've also talked about that tattoo on your forehead before.
Possibly. So there's a lot there. The Russell Wilson thing, I get or I understand as far as from a dollar amount standpoint. If somebody were to tell me that instead of Marcus Mariota, it was Russell Wilson here when looking at the contracts of the free agency stuff, I would think that makes sense. The Kirk Cousins signing would not make any sense compared to what it is that looks like they're the direction they're going in or what it is they're trying to do. The other thing with the Marcus Mariota standpoint is, look, it's not to say that Drake May can't run. He can, but it's more along the lines of like what Sam Howell was doing. Whereas Jaden Daniels is like really a threat. The same thing with Marcus Mariota. There is a part of me that kind of thinks the Marcus Mariota thing is maybe a few signals that Jaden Daniels is the guy, just in the sense of.
So you do buy into that? That
I buy into it at least a little bit. So okay. Like the only thing being is that what you talked about it, what it is they asked Marcus Mariota about was like that through line of being the second overall pick and how it is you would talk to her. To me, if you even have a guy that has extreme. You want to get as close to maybe even that gaming style so that you're not having to run a different system depending on the guy that's in there. I'm not saying that Drake maybe need a completely different system, right? But you're more lockstep. You're just more lockstep. There's just a more of I can communicate or talk to this guy and help them learn, especially if you're going to do a situation where you don't want Jaden to start immediately. If you want Marcus Mariota to be there, then you can have a guy actually legitimately look at another dude and be like, I need to emulate that.
That was another underrated aspect of that move is with the money that they gave him, I think he's going to be the starter. And I'm very happy about that, right? Because we've talked about, we want our guy to sit no matter who it is. And it looks like that seems to be what we're on track for. And it allows the offensive line to get a rhythm in the meanwhile, to be able to, when we plug him in, presumably in year one at some point, ideally not, honestly, just give him a whole year. I would love a whole year of Mariota. Maybe a little frustrating from the excitement standpoint, but like it's good. That's what good franchises would do. And to your point, K-Dot, it's impossible to deny that Mariota, Daniels, a lot of similarities between the two of them. It doesn't have to mean Jaden Daniels, but wouldn't fault you for thinking it, right? Similar build, again, number 2 overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, somewhat similar playing style. Like, it's closer to Jaden than it is Drake. And if you look at the Baltimore Ravens, that's how they organize their quarterback room. I'd consider them a pretty good franchise. So we'll see what ends up happening. We also traded Sam Howell and removed that potential friction. So like any number of things you can read into. Right?
I know that the Drake May Sam Howell thing was a thing for me.
Yes.
I've talked about it. Yeah, look, the only reason I'm not completely in the tank for these things happening is because of how unpredictable to a certain degree they've been when the media gets a hold of what it is they think Washington's going to do.
Right. Okay, and then we go over to Jess Santo one more time. Even with the cap increase, a lot of these teams are going to be dropping a ton of talented players. Look for the Chargers. Yep. Keenan Allen now with the Chicago Bears. Mike Williams released. Broncos, 49ers, Cowboys, Eagles, and Steelers, etc., to be dropping these players. I think our new coaching staff and front office have an inside track on a lot of these players that will be released.
Yep.
I'm curious to see what free agent offensive linemen will be targeted, and I really hope they get a veteran middle linebacker to play with Davis and Khalil Hudson. Well, guess what? That linebacker room is a lot different now. It's very exciting, and it allows, I think, both Frankie Luvu and Jamin Davis to rush a little bit more, which is very exciting. And then I think our defense has been sorely lacking a true leader, hence the lack of communication in the secondary and overall confusion. Bobby Wagner. That's
comment me Bobby Wagner. That's it.
If that says Bobby Wagner, it's correct. Yeah. Oh man, awesome. So appreciate the 2 comments there, Jess. And,
no doubt.
Then we go over to Earl Bruce. Shout out Earl. So far in free agency, they've made the right moves. I'm looking for the second wave of free agency. Good players will be available at lesser prices. And there are a lot of players. Thank you for the comment there, Earl. Appreciate you, OG. There are a lot of players, plenty of talent still available, right? So talk about Justin Simmons as a safety. I've mentioned Stephon Gilmore. I still think he can be brought in as an extension of the coaching staff, similar to what we've seen with some of these other guys. I think helps in the secondary big time, especially with Kendall Fuller now gone. We'll see what happens there. And then left tackle Tyron Smith. You want another Dallas connection? Same thing with Stephon Gilmore. Like, I don't mind pulling players. And here's the difference between Ron Rivera, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, you're doing the connections thing." First off, everybody does that. Every competent team does that. Secondly, we're pulling from a 12-win team, 13-win team. So like, I'm okay doing that, right? And we're not. Our QB ideally has that clutch gene and is different. So it is. Take good ascending pieces or veteran leaders from that team. I have no problem with that. Go ahead, K-Dot.
That's the second part is the biggest part. You're getting dudes that are coming in here that know how to. They're leaders. They're not just dudes. They're not just guys. They're not the mid-level dudes. They're not guys that, hey, they're guys that know what, from a leadership standpoint, how to communicate it. Tyron Smith is known as a leader in that locker room. Even though he's had some really weird tweets recently. Then beyond that, Bobby Wagner, I mean, no one needs to say anything. We know. That's the thing, is like, this team is all about developing and making sure there are through lines in the communication. And that's everything.
That is absolutely everything. And it actually sort of jumps into Vindo's final comment. And the final comment in the comment mailbag, again, we really appreciate this, guys.
Absolutely.
Shout out Vindo, shout out Earl Bruce for the previous one. Most of the players they are signing may be old, but most were captains from their former teams. My friends are shitting on these signings, saying that Bobby Wagner and Austin Ekeler are too old, but I don't care, dude. Solid pickups for real. Hashtag HTTC, hashtag for the culture. And it really is. This is a culture shift, right? The coaching staff. And this is to your credit, K-Dot, and it needs to be said because a lot of people did not like the Dan Quinn hire, right? You have any idea how many players fucking love him, right? To come over here and be like, yeah, I want to be here. Bobby Wagner, that's a pipe dream in years past, for example. Austin Ekeler on the deal we got him at. Is that happening without an Adam Peters, without an Anthony Lynn who was brought in by Dan Quinn, right? Like, this is what we're to. Zach Ertz being a commander at the current age he's at. Yes, a bit older, but not over the hill just yet, right? Like, that's with Cliff Kingsbury, another Dan Quinn hire. So just wanted to give you kudos for a moment that, like, you saw this. It wasn't just Dan Quinn. It was what came with him. And this is what you're seeing.
I appreciate it. There's, once again, in the coaching cycle, there were 2 names above all other names that I knew could do that. And it's Raheem Morris and it's Dan Quinn. What Atlanta's doing is not the same that we're doing because of what they did with the Kirk Cousins thing. Right. They all eggs in the Kirk Cousins basket, plus their team is in a different place than our team is right now. So you don't look for them to do the same thing. They're very young and actually pretty good. Yeah, it's just that if you're talking about a rebuild, then we need to rebuild the culture. And what are you doing as far as rebuild the culture? You need to have a guy that guys want to play for.
Right.
You need to have, like, that's important when you're having a team that didn't have that for the longest time. And shit, that's the thing is, like, even with the Ron Rivera, where you hear some of the stories and stuff that come out, as much as he's a good dude, he was spread so thin doing Lord knows what. I still don't know. That he couldn't put the face to things when it came to the players and stuff. At least he was choosing not to, or he thought he was getting in the way of the coordinators, whatever. It just becomes awkward. It becomes fragmented.
Yeah. And so that was the common mailbag. This is District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. And now we'll do the full outro. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do. Love the comment mailbag. Gives us an overall feel for not just our community, but the fan base as a whole. And K-Dot,
share this shit. If you haven't seen Dune 2 yet, fuck you.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, what are you doing if you haven't seen Dune 2?
Have you seen Dune 2?
After the pod begins right now. No, of course I haven't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, Kirk Cousins. You want to talk about Kirk Cousins? Go ahead.
Yeah, but now I want to talk about the Oscars. No, let's stick to Kirk Cousins. Sure. So I just had, there was one question I had.
Okay.
It includes Marcus Mariota.
Okay.
There's a part of me, and I'm not going to say credit for this. Bill Simmons, who I love. Did the Netflix quarterback series severely overrate Marcus Mariota and Kirk Cousins to us?
So I'll tell you this. K-Dot, I told you way back in the day, my mindset, or like not my mindset, but the quarterback series for me showed the difference in mindset between 3 different levels of starter, or I'll even say quarterback.
Yeah, you say
right?
Quarterback. Yeah.
Mariota, let's be real, was glad to be there. Just glad to have the chance to start. Kirk, to his credit, doing anything and everything to maximize his abilities. And I actually told you, and those listening, that I thought he was trying a little too hard. And if anything, if he just took a step back a little bit and relaxed, I think he could be really, really good. And maybe he goes on to do that. And Mahomes, of course, is an absolute demon, right? Who, if he gets hurt and they're like, hey, we just need to evaluate you. And he turns into a 5-year-old child. No, you can't. No, I'm fine. Like he is. And then he's just cursing people out. Like that is a guy that is just different, right? That to me is why Mahomes is different.
Yeah.
So the mindset thing, I came away going like, man, Mariota, what happened? I'm just being honest. I know he's our guy now, but like that's
no, there like when quarterback was over, I liked Marcus Mariota as a guy because I got to know him
I
personally.
liked him all as guys. Yeah.
But there was that whole, you remember he got hurt, got benched, and disappeared.
Yeah, he was salty.
Like, there was not some great things. But
right.
And the Kirk Cousins stuff, like, look, I'm a Kirk defender mostly, but I'm even willing to admit that, like, if you look at the amount of money he's made at quarterback compared to production as far as where his teams have gone, that is where everyone should have a problem with Kirk Cousins. Like that to me is where it's like, that's no.
And I think the conversation, and I think it's important to note, when we have these conversations around players, it is also the amount of money that they command and end up making, and props to them. Like Kirk Cousins and his agent, good for you guys. But it is part of the conversation because it directly correlates with expectations.
100%. So like, I think there's a good portion of that. Do I think Kirk Cousins can win this league? Yes, but maybe that's blind faith or just loving. Because look, there's nothing that he's done in his career that makes you think that he will go on a Super Bowl run without just tanking first playoff game or something. Like I get it. I can be honest about it.
Appreciate that.
The way that the Kirk Cousins to Atlanta thing went, and so like, oh shit. I was just like, listen to Bill Simmons. Everybody was like, I don't think that's the right move. he was like, I just don't think that's, no, they're not going to be, what are they going to do? Lose in the first round? Is that the ceiling? Like,
you know how I feel about it, but I will say, at least for Kirk, that is probably as good a landing spot. Like you've got Drake London, you've got Kyle Pitts. That was so funny, by the way, in Kirk Cousins, intro presser when they were talking about the number 8, and he's like, let me make a donation to a charity. And he's like, oh, Kyle Pitts just said he wanted targets. And he was joking. And someone wrote, that man was not fucking joking. Like, he just wants targets. And Bijan, along with Zach Robinson, OC, McVay, Tree, like that could work.
Oh, no,
really
I think it
well.
can work.
Yeah,
I think it can work. I'm like, it's just, to me, it was more like, I wanted to hear your thought on that as far as the Netflix quarterback and the, I still have my feelings on Kirk Cousins. They're not changing that much. Sure. Marcus Mariota coming here, to me, I was more excited about the prospect of him being a leader for potentially a Jaden Daniels. Mm-hmm. That to me is the only reason I'm really excited about Marcus Mariota. Because they're like, here. And if he's the bridge quarterback, to me, it's more like, can you have somebody fairly competent at quarterback that doesn't have the team completely regress and allows your guy to get enough? He was not at the top of my list.
No, he wasn't mentioned by you. He wasn't mentioned by me. And
I did not like what I saw at the end of the Netflix quarterback stuff. I didn't.
Neither did I. Yeah, I mean, we can call a spade there. Like, that's how we both felt about it. I like the connection to Brian Johnson. I think that helps with the transition over here with Marcus. And I like the parallels. Again, that number 2 overall pick thing was not something that immediately struck me when we signed him. But once he himself mentioned it and was like, hey, I'm here in whatever capacity they want, I was like, perfect. You know your role. It's not a lot of money for a starting QB right now. Take it. That sounds good to me.
It felt like the anti-Jacoby Brissett. Like, they've set the expectation with Marcus, you're here as a backup.
Do you think an immediate backup? What do you mean?
I think that they've set the expectation for him that I think that he knows more than we do as far as what it is they've communicated to him. But I think if you listen in the press conference, to me, the vibe that I got was that he is more than willing to be a backup quarterback for whoever it is.
It's just how he speaks, man. I think it just goes back to the mindset of like, glad to be here again, which like, I wish I could just literally go in there and change that a little bit of like, go back to being that guy. And that's what life experience could do. And like, you get hit that many times. He wasn't set up for success when he got drafted. That's the same fear I have for, whoever we take it to, which is why I keep saying, sit him. I want Marcus to start day 1. I do. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
I love the idea of fine tuning the offense with a crash
in the rhythm, man. Yeah. And then let your boy, you're building his confidence as much as possible. Your boy being picked 2 overall or whatever we do. Maybe we trade down a little bit or trade up a little bit. I don't know. But the goal to me is let the offense gel, specifically the O-line. Allow time to develop the QB. And by that, I mean, get used to the playbook, get used to the guys around him, develop that relationship, be a leader.
Eat some cheeseburgers.
Eat some cheeseburgers, depending on who you are. And have high confidence when you go in.
Yeah, because it's to me the grand thing of all things for me when it comes to quarterback specifically. Once you go to him, you're going to him.
Yes.
Like the whole
there's
Sam
no
Howell
turning
shit.
back.
Right. The whole we're gonna bench Sam and then maybe he'll get no. If you're gonna go to your guy, that's it. We're running until the wheels fall off, man.
Yeah.
Like and that's where it was with the Sam Howell thing, where you get a lot of fans and they get still upset that he's leaving. Which to me is like, I saw Sam Howell do some incredible shit. I really did. I saw some flashes that were like, holy fuck. Especially early on where I didn't think the coaching staff was doing him any favors. It was really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
But there became a point in time near the end of the season where it was like, I don't think we can play you. Like, for your own safety, and for everybody, I can't play you.
That became coaching malpractice. And to your point, you mentioned the Jimmy Johnson chart. The league valued, Mac Jones went for a 6th-round pick. The league valued Sam Howell as a late 3rd, early 4th, when you look at the Jimmy Johnson chart.
Yeah.
4 teams were supposedly interested in him based on multiple sources. There's clearly a guy there, and that is expensive for a backup QB, right? So clearly Seattle likes him. Like, in case Geno doesn't work, that may be a more open competition than people think in Seattle. Like, he's got a shot.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I think he absolutely does. But what I don't think, and this is why I was like, I've been throwing cold water on Sam Howell remaining here for a minute. I think
you have, and you were ultimately right.
Because it's just there's one thing. If the only thing I have on record for you is what I saw early in the season, Eric Bieniemy did a better job as far as the run to pass ratio, and maybe you finish last season with around 500 record. Okay, maybe we have a conversation as far as like, okay, this dude has shown enough that maybe we don't have to waste anything to do. But once I saw what happened at the end of the season, you throw everything else out. It's like he might have been broken. So like the idea is like, if I'm bringing in a brand new coaching staff and we have the opportunity to draft a quarterback, am I wasting my time developing this guy compared to developing the system around another guy?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Why am I doing that? Unless you, and that's the thing, unless you think Sam Howell's just a dude that's like, he'll roll with the punches, be a great backup regardless. But no, I think that what they're looking at, what I'm excited about is that when you pick up a Marcus Mariota, it seems as though, like we've said, they want that person to start before they're going to have the, so like, we
could have an entire debate on that episode once we actually draft the QB. And so that's the other thing. We right now have Mariota, we have Jake Fromm still. And so the presumption, and I think it's a very reasonable one, is that our QB of the future exists in this draft. I don't think that we are going to have the offseason that we did with all these one-year deals and not have that future quarterback be around those guys
100%
to be able to figure out how to be a leader, how to command a locker room, and how to be the guy ultimately.
We just have no idea who that guy is.
We just have no idea.
Yeah, because like I still think Justin Fields is in a conversation. Like I think that everyone is in a conversation. I don't know where they're going to go with it.
I don't think they know yet. I think some people think they do, but remember, we also, and to pour some cold water over the, Marcus means Jaden. It could help with it, but this team also supposedly went after Sam Darnold. So I mean, what does that mean? Right? Like, so it really is amongst the available QBs, Marcus was chosen ultimately. Something to think about.
Yeah, I get it. But I would say that, like, even if
I want Jaden. Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe they have it as a toss-up between Drake May and Jake.
I think they do right now. Like, well, at least there's no indication. We don't know is the first and foremost takeaway, is that none of us know. And I think there's still, the pro days still need to happen.
Yes.
Right.
We still got a lot of time. There's still a lot of things to have. Look, I still have a little bit in me that says Jaden Daniels still might be the first quarterback off the draft that gets drafted. I still think that's a possibility.
We'll see. I mean, more and more people are coming out going, hey, Jaden's pretty good. Jaden's pretty good.
Although if the Bears did that, that would be ballsy as fuck.
Could you imagine? And then, okay, so now we're on the clock. It's Caleb, it's Drake. Who do you take?
For me?
Yeah.
Caleb.
Yeah, I'd probably go Caleb too. I think at that point, it's so, but it's also, that's sort of just shock. Could you imagine?
If I don't have to move up,
we're doing a live stream. We're all chilling. Everyone assumes Caleb, but the Bears have also been super quiet. And like, everyone's just like, okay, Caleb's going to go Chicago. And then all of a sudden, Chicago Bears with the first overall pick select Jaden Daniels, LSU. We're just like, I don't know what I would do in that situation.
So you're saying, you said Caleb or Jaden. You mean Caleb or Drake?
Right. At pick 2 overall, who would you take if, Caleb. Okay. I think I would do the same thing.
Look, I want everybody to kind of understand that, like, we knew we weren't going to have the first overall pick when we started talking about all this shit, right? So like I still think Caleb Williams is the best player in the draft. Or best quarterback in the draft.
He's done the most insane shit. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I just think I think he's the best. I like Jaden Daniels quite a bit. And I've liked him for a while. But I just felt as though there's going to be, it would have to take us doing something to move up to get Caleb. And I don't want to do that.
Me neither. It's going to be so expensive the way that they're selling it right now. So because, I don't know.
I like more bites of the apple, and I like, especially when it comes to this team and what it looks like they'll be doing is being able to develop guys. I just want to draft a bunch of dudes.
I have not heard a coaching staff be as clear in their thinking. We've talked about how important that is, or I guess I have, in terms of like just those exact words, clear in their thinking. Then Dan Quinn and Joe Witt. Cliff, we didn't get shit from during his presser, and that's fine. I'm not looking for all that with Cliff's, but like, Because he's very much he strikes me as an introvert, honestly, where
Very
he
much
just
so.
wants to like just be by himself, come up with in his lab and just like come up with plays, and here you go, and get along with one guy. That'll be the QB. But Joe Witt, Dan Quinn were so clear in their thinking. I think that's going to help these young guys know exactly what to do. Like Bobby's going to help them know exactly what to do. Dorance, Dante.
Mhm.
It's exciting times. Now, I do have a question for you, K-Dot, because we did something a while back. Justin Fields, if you were to trade a second-round pick for him, would you do it?
Mhm.
And now, considering how long teams have waited, right? He's still there. I think that Chicago, I know Ryan Pohl said they want to do right by him, but I do think that they are waiting for the USC Pro Day. I don't know that they're 100% sold just yet. So what do you think Justin Fields' value is now that QBs are being traded? Desmond Ridder also got traded already.
Oh, it's
so like
horrific.
So what does horrific mean? Like what
Piss
draft
poor.
pick are we talking about?
I don't think anybody's necessarily. I think until I was just having this conversation yesterday with some guys that I do the other podcast with that we haven't done an episode in like a month. So I don't know if I do that podcast. But
shout out
to those guys. I don't think Chicago can make a move until at least draft night on Justin. And I think
at this point okay.
But I think it has just as much to do with Chicago as it does for everybody else. Because like everybody else is kind of also thinking if they're going to draft one of these guys, they're going to have to get rid of Justin at some point.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to overpay, or I want to give them more than I need to give them for this when we've heard how much they're a stickler for what it is the compensation they want for Justin Fields. So there is sort of like, I'm not even going to call these guys.
Well, actually, to your point,
there's so many movement though. Did you see what Minnesota did this morning?
Well, okay. So that's my exact point. I think Minnesota, that could be a draft day trade and a very intriguing one at that. Where let's say Chicago takes Caleb 1.
That also be fucking ridiculous to trade him in.
Well, that's the thing. So it's in division. So the price is a bit higher, right? Because you go, okay, well, you're in division. I mean, like to take him off of us, it's not like he's going to the AFC.
Right.
Like we're going to play this guy twice a year.
I
don't know how we're going to sell that to our fan base.
You know,
so that could be like a very intriguing draft day move where all of a sudden Minnesota goes, yeah, fuck it, we'll take him. We tried to move up. We couldn't. We're not getting one of the QBs we wanted. We do like Justin, though.
So that's the thing. It's like Minnesota's making moves in which it looks like they're trying to gain ammunition to do something. Denver looks like they're going to sit pat and just whoever falls to them, they'll be okay with it. Probably JJ McCarthy will be around there, right?
Yeah.
The Raiders want Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, Antonio Pierce loves him.
They really want Jaden Daniels. And the thing is, like, do I see us trading with the Raiders necessarily? No, unless Justin Fields here.
I think it's too far down. Yeah.
It's right. So, like, if you're the Raiders have to, what do they got to do to do that? I don't think they have enough ammunition to get the one.
Kid, I have a question for you. Just speaking of intra-division trades, what would it take for the New York Giants to move up to pick 2 and we'd fall to 6? So you're allowing them to get Jaden or Drake or Caleb?
A lot.
But you would entertain it?
It just depends. I mean, I would never shut anything down depending on the compensation.
I think I would personally shut down any trades involving first round picks, which mean QB with any of my division opponents.
I understand that logic. I'm not as hard.
I just don't want to be on the wrong side of that.
Yeah, but if somebody's giving me like if I'm the NFC South and David Tepper's on the line, I'm gonna pick up the phone. Like,
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. You get an idiot owner. Yeah, sure.
So it's like I'm not gonna throw that completely out. Just because it just depends on the compensation and what you like. Like if on my draft board I see that I have JJ McCarthy ranked very, very similar, very, very close to Jaden Daniels and maybe above even Drake May. Can I move back to where New York is and still get my JJ McCarthy? I'll do it.
That's fair. No, that is fair because you get your guy, they get theirs, and we get more stuff. I get
more stuff. Right. So like I get to put a better team around this guy. So like this.
But that's also not like a 2 to 3. So for example, like if you're a JJ guy, let's say, which I mean, come on, who's a JJ guy? if you were to move back to 6, there's not necessarily a guarantee that he's going to be there. Minnesota wants to move up. Who knows? Like New England may like him. I don't know.
So once again, there's a chance of that, right? But like,
Right.
I don't know. I still think 6, you're pretty 6. I think you're still pretty confirmed. You're going to get a JJ or a Drake, one of the guys that fall down.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts? We're coming up against the hard stop here, K. So the Kirk Cousins thing, well, why don't we put a bow on that? I do, for where they are now, I think it is a good move. I believe in the Kirk Cousins ceiling until he shows that he's just, I don't know how to explain. I do think it's a mindset thing with him. Like, I think
it's a ceiling
he's just
until you
too
crash through it.
in.
I think it's a ceiling until you crash through it. John Elway.
That's true.
Like
you are what you are until you're something else. Like, yeah, it's true.
So like, I'm not gonna. So with Kirk, it's like, yeah, I can look at all those things, but I'm like, I think, if it's a binary, do I believe he can do it? Yes.
Sure. And the way I think of it is, I see San Francisco. I see Green Bay. Dude, Green Bay's good. Like, I'm curious to see year 2 of Jordan Love. I don't know that it brings Atlanta that much further than they think. So I'm on, I feel. But like, I also sort of side with Bill Simmons in that regard. They might win a playoff game. I don't know that they go further than that. We'll see.
I think they go further than that because I think that division is ass.
Well, it is a pretty bad division. Also curious to see Baker Mayfield in another year of that. And maybe Bryce Young maybe does take a step up. I don't know. Like, it should be fun.
You have an NFC that's definitely weaker than the AFC, and
definitely.
You got an offense that'll probably be pretty potent. If you can win, if you can crush through the division, there's not out of the realm of possibility that you're a home field you have a home field advantage in the NFC playoffs and you're Atlanta.
That would be, oof.
Like, to me, it's the same. Like, I had Jacksonville is probably one of the top seeds in the NFC last year. It didn't work out exactly, but it was because of the division they played in. Like, you can get there if the division fucking sucks. You're not beating up on each other. So I'm just saying.
Who is the Saints quarterback? Why am I forgetting right now?
Carr.
That's right, Carr. Yeah. All right. Well, we got to go. We'll talk to you guys later. NFC South's an intriguing division. So until then, take it easy, guys. Enjoy.
Bye, everybody.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.